My name is Jim Eskin, and as founder of Eskin Fundraising Training, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to our last virtual learning community of calendar year 2025. And appropriately enough, we're calling it Thanks-A-Thon 2025 because the world of philanthropy has a lot to be thankful for. We are a huge ecosystem that, if I have that numbers running in my head, we have more than 13 million employees. We have more than 80 million volunteers. We have more than 24 million board members. We have hundreds of millions of donors who might be Mackenzie Phillip, Mackenzie Scott, who's giving unrestricted, no strings attached. Where was she when we needed her? Has been now $26 billion to your neighbor who puts $10 in the collection plate every week. And Mackenzie Scott will be the first to tell you each one of them is a philanthropist. And I'm a little trivia guy, so I wanted to start out with one and type it in the chat box. You know, this is December 17th, so I always like looking up this day in history. This day in history in 1964 was the premiere of probably my all-time favorite James Bond classic, Goldfinger. And it premiered in London starring James Bond and Honor Blackman. Now, times were less politically correct, but what was the movie name for Honor Blackman? It was such a no name like it, I think, in the history of movies. Anybody want to take a swing at it?
Was her last name Galore?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was her first name?
Pussy Galore.
Oh, come on, Jim. Kitty. How about I mean, come on, Jim. You really want me to say that?
You know, I don't know if it could have got away. It was Pussy Galore. Okay. I mean, what a great name. And also, I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends. This is the first night of Hanukkah, which started on Sunday night. And I really think I'm Jewish, and a couple of us are Jewish. You know, it's a celebration of religious freedom, not just for Jewish people, for people of all faiths. So here are the rules. And welcome Laura Linhart Kistner. And welcome, let me see, Ted, have we met before?
No, I don't believe we have. I'm here representing Tammy Miller and ATX Kids Club.
Well, thank you.
Right.
And Steve, I haven't seen you in about 10 years, but you don't look any older. Steve is the inventor of ever heard of something called the signature event? He's the guy that came up with the first signature event. Joe Johnson, I think you registered very late in this game, but thank you for joining us. By the way, which nonprofit are you representing?
Yeah, I'm with Louder Than Silence.
Okay.
I did jump in last minute here.
We love last minute people. You know, last in, first out. How about Kirsten? You're a kind of, is this your first time? And which nonprofit are you representing?
It is. I represent Girl Scouts of Central Texas.
Oh, okay.
Thank
What's any new cookies this year?
There is a new cookie this year. It's called the Explore More. It is a Rocky Road ice cream inspired flavor.
Wow.
How does it taste like? Have you done some of your own tasting?
I did. I did get to do a little taste test. I personally don't taste the marshmallow, I just have to say, but my husband is a huge fan of the new cookie. So there you go.
Yeah. I'm old fashioned. I'm Mr. Vanilla. So give me trefoils any day of the week.
It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah. Okay, let's get underway. The first rule is the no rules. The second rule is I'm going to introduce our speakers, and there's Jasmine Dean, welcome, and Amir and Mary Yearwood. We got some really good people here. And I'd like you to take roughly 3 minutes and explain your mission, explain what is most satisfying about philanthropy to you, and who do you want to express thanks to? And we're going to go in alphabetical order. And I'd like to start with Julie Beam, who you heard is Executive Director of Attachment and Trauma Network, which is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you,
Julie.
Thank you. Well, this is excitingly, this is our 30th year in business, and our mission is to promote the healing of children impacted by trauma by supporting their families, their schools, and their communities. And we're excited that within the last 5 years, we've really grown into all of those spaces. I think what excites me the most about philanthropy is watching those who give to us really feel like they're making a difference. Excuse me. I'm getting over bronchitis, so excuse me for a second.
You're not the only one.
It's trauma impacts so many folks. The prevalence is so heavy that it's easy to find a connection through most of the folks, most of our donors, most of the families, and the folks that support us come to us because they recognize their own childhoods or the folks, the children that they are serving in some way. So that aha moment and that moment where they get to see how they can make a positive, hopeful difference is really important to us. Yeah, I have to thank my staff. We touch about 80,000 children a year, one way or the other, through supporting their schools and educators, their caregivers, their social workers, such a variety of things. But there are only 4 of us, and they happen to be the hardest working other 3 people I know in the whole world.
Wow.
They're so passionate about what they do, and they're so thoughtful about what they do. And I couldn't do it without them.
Julie, one thing we know in the nonprofit sector, small, devoted bands of people can change the world.
Yep, we feel that way. We have an awesome board. There are 12 of them, but the folks that really roll up their sleeves and are always there, obviously, are the staff. And so I'm grateful for all 16 of those folks, but in particular, the folks that I get to work with every day, because it's an honor.
Yeah. Any questions for Julie before I turn it over to Nikisha Baker? Any questions mental health related? And by the way, I'm going to get on my soapbox. I think it's a crime the way that we can't open up about, mental health. The way, I've had heart and spinal surgery, and I can talk about anything. And I've been diagnosed with OCD, which everyone says, well, I'm OCD, but I'm in therapy and proud of it and taking some meds. And, there's just a lot, I think it's a crime that we can't talk as freely and openly about mental health as we can about physical health issues, because I think they go hand in hand, mental and physical health. And Steve Lerman's going to get a little into mental health challenges. Randa, this is something pretty close to you. Any related questions about the mental health challenges?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to express appreciation because I came across ATN by way of their annual Creating Trauma Sensitive Schools conference, and I have a son who is neurospicy with a background
Hey, help
in
me.
trauma.
That's above my pay grade. What does that mean?
It's just the way I say he's neurodivergent, and we both have some trauma in our background, and I just find the work that ATN does, especially that work to create trauma sensitive schools that can support children who are going through things instead of kind of othering them and pushing them off into a different class. It just really means a lot, especially now. So no question, but just some extra love.
Yeah. Thank you, Randa. Yeah. I appreciate you very much. You know that. I hope you know that. And
by the way, I won't brag on her, but I guess I will brag on her. Randa is completing her PhD, and her
you should brag on
trauma-informed leadership in the nonprofit sector. So, and I've seen some previews.
She's going to
And
be
she is
a
an
world changer.
academic that can write like a human, not like a robot. Let's next go, before we go to Steve, Nikisha Baker, who is a powerhouse in the nonprofit sector in South Texas. Nikisha, we'd like you to take 3 minutes. And first of all, thank you for sharing us today. And I like her. She worked up her ranks from a director of development to a CEO. We love to see the directors of development get to the C-suite. 3 minutes, could you describe your mission? What is your greatest joy in philanthropy? And who do you want to express thanks to?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me to come. I am so honored to sit amongst fundraisers. This is still my favorite thing to do, is to talk about this organization that I am passionate about and our work. SAM Ministries is a 45-year-old nonprofit here in San Antonio. We are working to serve those experiencing or facing homelessness in our community. We are, I am proud to say, in the realm of trauma-informed care, the first homeless service provider on the local level who was trauma-informed certified as an organization through the Ecumenical Center and that organizational certification process. So we believe wholly in the impact of trauma in individuals' life experiences and their positioning. San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry is intentionally named as such. We were founded by the Reverend Dr. Louis Sabinden after he'd found a homeless person who'd passed away on the grounds of First Presbyterian Church in the early 1980s. He called together the Downtown Ministers Alliance, and we were incorporated in 1983 as San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry. We started as a part-time shelter serving single men experiencing homelessness, and today we are one of the largest homeless service providers in San Antonio and Bexar County. People often reference us as the bookends to what happens on the campus at Haven for Hope. And so we provide homeless prevention resources to keep families and individuals from falling into homelessness. And we provide long-term housing solutions. So transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and then non-time limited permanent supportive housing. I have had the pleasure of serving this organization over the last decade, first as the Director of Development, then as our Chief Development Officer, and 5 years ago was appointed to be CEO of this
I
organization.
don't see enough gray in your hair to earn the CEO
You can't
ranking.
see it. You can't see it. You can't see it.
It's coming, right? It's coming.
But this is really the place that I've fallen in love with the most in San Antonio. I spent most of my early fundraising career in education and came to this place and learned so much about the supports that are needed to help individuals experiencing homelessness. And it kind of brings together all of the things that I love: education, social services, social connections, wellness, spirituality, all of the things put together create this incredible place that I get the privilege of serving. My most favorite thing about being a fundraiser, candidly, is the ability to have conversations with people, to generate organic relationships where I can learn about others and their desires to do good and give back. And we can align around things that matter in our community. The reason that's important to me is because I would like to leave this place better than I found it. This organization, my community, the world. And so all of that is important to me. I'm a mom raising kiddos, and I want it to be a better world for them. I want it to be a better San Antonio for them. And so philanthropy gives me an opportunity to do that, to engage with a community of folks who also want this to be a better place.
Nikisha, it was striking to me. I think you shared some data. San Antonio, I think, has a population. We're the smallest big city in the country. I think we're 1.7 million people. But what share of the homeless are young people? It's absolutely shocking.
So children under the age of 18, this most recent point in time count was 50% of our total count experiencing homelessness in San Antonio.
Oh my God.
That is children largely living with families, but who are experiencing homelessness. But we do the count again in January. So the data that I'm sharing is from last year, but 50%. So that's the largest share of any population segment, any age group. 3 years ago, it was children. Youth and young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. And so it hasn't improved from my perspective. So that means that there's more work for us to do.
Okay, let's move to what they
Jim,
call.
Jim, may I
Pardon me?
say something about Nikisha?
Yeah, please. Okay,
I just
Barbara
want to say,
Williams.
I
Okay.
just want to say thank you to her for the wonderful job that I've heard she is doing. And I think San Antonio is blessed to have her in that role, because I remember when Lewis founded Sam Ministry in 1980 as a member of a downtown church. And I remember people rallying around to get that started. And so I'm grateful for the fact that Lewis started it, but I'm also grateful to Nikisha for what she's doing. Thank you.
And by the way, on that note, if anybody, this is pretty organic. If you want to make a comment, be like Barbara, and be a Budinsky. That's what we do in my family. Let's move to the greater Boston area and my good friend Stephen. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think this guy could out wrestle anyone I know. Steve, if memory serves me correctly, you were a Maccabean Games world champion wrestler. Is that right?
Medalist. Yeah, I was a medalist.
Yeah. Well,
there you have it.
If there's a fight, I want you on my side. Okay. You've been in this business a long time. Could you briefly describe your firm? What gives you the greatest joy about philanthropy, and who you would like to share thanks with?
Okay, so here I am, guys, from snowy, very cold and snowy Massachusetts. I'm sure that no one in Texas has had to deal with that yet this year, but here we are. And my firm, Beyond a Little Associates, is 41 years old now.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, 41. And we're the guys who in 1984 coined the phrase signature event. We didn't do the world's first signature event. We coined the phrase to describe an event whose brand recognition was greater than the nonprofit that was putting that event on, because we found ourselves in that situation all the time. The events we were running were very, very famous. Every man, person on the street knew the event, couldn't pinpoint the nonprofit that it was benefiting. And initially, the sector had a problem with that. But we pointed out, wait a minute, that's the whole point of brand marketing. Procter & Gamble's not losing any sleep because the Tide or Crest user doesn't know that it's a Procter & Gamble product. What do you care if the money is coming to you and the money contributor knows where it's going? So in any case, it was an important thing to sensitize the sector to 40 odd years ago. And I think nowadays people are happy to have 4 or 5 events that are famous, whether or not every person on the street knows where that event attaches. So the other thing that's just a little more well known about us, and this is the thing that you probably do know us about, is we're the firm that brought the world of walkathon fundraising to scale. We did the world's first $1 million walkathon, 2 million, 3 million, 9 million, all the way up through to Relay for Life, which you know is an American Cancer Society event. My firm was running half of it, 240 million a year. And we're the creators of the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event, which now, all these years later, I know Susan Coleman, based in Texas, but I hate to have to tell you guys, it's actually the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event now that has raised more private sector money in the fight against breast cancer than anything else. I wrote the concept paper personally in '92. And spent 20 consecutive years with a team of 15 trainers crisscrossing America, building capacity in all of the divisions in the American Cancer Society to run that project well and at peak we were doing 80 million net a year. So in the process of having this sort of educational approach to peer-to-peer fundraising, we worked for 14 national public healths, 28 regionals, created a 14,000 person alumni base, which really have been all the people running all the disease and body part organizations in the US and some of the other things in peer-to-peer fundraising. So when you ask me what I'm the most proud of, thankful of, et cetera, is probably by popularizing walkathon fundraising, a market that when we started was $20 million trickle in 1984. And at peak, 06, 07, 08, 09, at peak, over $2 billion.
Wow.
At peak, 40 to 50 million Americans a year, either participating in that kind of event and or contributing money. What we really did was, if you think about it, was we made the average American, the American of modest means, able to be a philanthropist. Why? My favorite story, a developmentally disabled gentleman working in one of the hospitals in Boston back in the 80s and 90s, and was making as an orderly, a hospital orderly, changing bedpans primarily, and was probably making $18,000 or $19,000 a year back at that time. And each year he would come to one of our hunger walks and never hand us less than $20,000, $20,000, $22,000, $24,000.
Wow.
This is out of a developmentally disabled man who spent his year asking every single human that he or she saw to, for a small contribution and make a difference in the hunger walk that he was going to participate in. So when you think of something like, I know multimillionaires that don't give $20,000 a year to charity. And when you think of a developmentally disabled person making $18,000 a year, able to hand in $22,000 to make a difference, it means we popularized a form of giving that makes the average American, American of modest means, American of below modest means, able to be a philanthropist, because you actually don't have to reach into your own pocket. You can ask your friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, bowling teammates, co-parishioners for $1, $2, $5 to make a difference on that cause that you care about. So that's a big point of pride. And of course, I'm thankful to all 14,000 of our alumni that have spread out across America and have built that sort of mini micro industry. But on a personal note, and it speaks a little bit to some of what Nikisha was talking about. I personally grew up in the nation's oldest large-scale orphanage in Philadelphia, Girard College for Orphans. It's 177 years old. We rock on to this day. The second big one is the Milton Hershey School, which many of you have heard of, 116 years old, Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was founded by a man whose name is Stephen Girard, who's largely unknown to anyone in the country. He was the richest American in the first half of the 19th century. If you adjust his wealth for percentage of GNP, he's fourth richest American in history. Nobody knows him. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, he left his entire estate in 1831 to raise children, indigent children. I've called him in articles in the Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, other places, the father of American philanthropy, which he is. If you look at that gift, now it would be the equivalent of almost giving, I think, an $83 billion gift to a single charity. And none of the rock stars, not Mackenzie, not her husband, Jeff, not anybody has laid that kind of dough on the table yet. 83 billion. So I give thanks every day of my life, because I wouldn't be sitting here, probably be, have had a terrible outcome had I not been able to spend 7 years in that orphanage. So that's it.
Steve, thank you for your vision and leadership. Next go to Jasmine Dean, who's the CEO of Celebrate Dyslexia. she had the good sense not to listen to yours truly. Could you tell, we talked, I don't know, 2019 or something, and she had the vision of forming a new organization. And I said, you know how hard it is to form a new nonprofit? And fortunately, she worked hard and worked smart. Could you tell us about the mission of Celebrate Dyslexia? Could you tell us what's your greatest joy of philanthropy and who you're grateful to?
Thank you so much for asking, Jim. Yes, I'm always happy to share the mission of Celebrate Dyslexia. It's to celebrate, educate, and empower the 1 in 5 with dyslexia, and ultimately support all those who love, teach, and employ them. And so we did start in 2019. I have had to learn quite a bit about the philanthropic world. And I think the thing that is so special, maybe unique to San Antonio, I don't know because I have not fundraised anywhere else, is that most philanthropists really want to partner with you and want to join in the journey with you here. And so it has been a joy to develop these relationships and have additional partnerships that open additional doors to do the work and to propel the mission of Celebrate Dyslexia. But ultimately, who I have to thank for all of this is an amazing woman who is on this call today, Barbara Williams, who answered the phone when I called her a couple of years ago to tell her I have an idea. And she said, well, who would you like to meet? And she introduced me to our first partner, Dan Menely at the Museum. And then after that partnership was established, I called her back and I said, I think I'm going to have to start a nonprofit. And she said, yes, I think you do. And so Barbara Williams is really one of the incredible champions in our community that rolls up her sleeves, climbs into the trench, supports the work in so many different areas. I see Sister Odelia on the call as well, that I met through Barbara as well. And I think so often of wanting to make sure that I honor all of the work that she has put into the community to support others through the work of Celebrate Dyslexia. Um, and it's just one of those beautiful pictures in our community of who will the mantle and continue the work. And so she has led by example and has given the charge to keep going. And I am just so grateful for the example that she has given me for a very long time. A mother raising my children in the same church, watching her go up to the podium and pull down the microphone and let people know what was what and how it was going to happen. And, what they ultimately should be called to do. So she has just been an incredible example. And I'm so grateful that our paths had crossed. And I'm forever grateful for the encouragement that she's given.
All right, thank you. Let's next move to John Donahue, who today is serving as an Institute for Philanthropic Excellence coach for the Garden State Classical Academy. But I don't think anybody is more accomplished in the fundraising and recognized profession by organizations such as CASE and AFP. And I did a podcast. I mean, he truly has mentored so many people. But John, could you tell us about your mission, your greatest joy of philanthropy, and who you're grateful to?
Sure. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity. For the last 45 years, I've helped institutions secure philanthropic support to advance their missions. Most of that was spent in higher education, most of that at larger organizations. But I've always centered, my activities on connecting donor values with institutional purposes. Back in December, I retired from full-time employment, but I felt it would just be a waste of experience to just kind of go and simply play golf and do other things and not take advantage of the opportunity to share some of my experience with smaller organizations. I met a fellow, he's in one of these boxes here, Marv Leroy. Marvin does some work for me when I was at the College of New Jersey, coaching board members and all, just did a terrific job. And I was particularly impressed with the work that his organization did, the Institute for Philanthropic Excellence. he's got a stable of coaches, and he invited me to join that stable, where we work with what we call the littles to middles. These are the smaller organizations, nonprofits throughout the country who are doing really amazing work, great work, but don't necessarily have the staff or the resources to achieve everything that they potentially can. So myself and Marv and the other coaches within the organization, work with these smaller organizations on campaigns and fundraising, and give them the guidance and the extra energy and lift that they need to secure the funds that they need to be successful. Um, this past year, or recently, I've had the opportunity to work with the Garden State Classical Academy, which is a small upstart school in New Jersey. Right now, it's pre-K through 4. They aspire to be pre-K through 12. It's really a fascinating group of people. And this is the first time I've worked with really a fledgling organization, one that was really just kind of getting off the ground. And it's really been eye-opening. And it's been inspiring. I met with the board one day a couple months ago, and just to hear them tell their stories about why they feel so passionate about making this school a success, the kind of education they're looking at providing, to these young people. It was just incredible, and the sacrifices they're making, both of their personal time, their treasure. And when you've got board members and executive directors, taking out personal loans to make sure that they have the money to get from one month to the next month. It was just amazing. So I found it extraordinarily rewarding to spend time with these folks, and I'm really excited to continue that work with them and help them secure the money that they need to become more sustainable and to carry out their vision. So as I thought about this and today, and I thought about, what I'm really appreciative, looking over all the years, there's so many folks. I look at Jim Eskin, who, I helped get into the business, many, many years ago. And I think about some of the other folks who I've had the opportunity to mentor, as well as the people who've mentored me along the way. It's an infinite list of people. I mean, none of us have achieved what we have, on our own. We've always had people around us who've been helpful. So I want to thank, all of them. But I also want to spend just a moment and recognize that there are organizations like your own, and I spent time in San Antonio. I was at UT San Antonio for a number of years, and but throughout this country, small organizations try to do important work, make a difference in their community that need our help. So even if you're running your own organization now, if you can reach out to some of those other smaller organizations and and give them a hand, offer them some of the wisdom that you've picked up over the years, it'll be enormously important. So I want to thank the board members, the professional staff. I want to thank the volunteers. I want to thank all those people who are making a difference in the community. Many of those people who will never have their name on a building or a room or something like that, but are just giving tirelessly of their energy and their finances and everything they can to make their communities better. So when I think about philanthropy, I think about all the good work that's being done in the country. And I think about the small part that I've had an opportunity to play and each of you are playing. And I'm just thankful to have found this as my career path. That's my story,
I
Jim.
don't, I don't want to say we're kind of incestuous here. John, the first time John was my boss, and for the first time I got to meet his boss, Ted Peck, who was vice president of institutional advancement. And by the way, I got to see the size of his office, and I thought to myself, I want to be a vice president of advancement someday. Okay. But that day, John reported to Ted he had just hired away from our lake to lake a Dynamo annual fund person, and that was Laura Linhart Kistner, who is with us now. I'll never forget that. And, she is a Dynamo, and Laura and I have worked together in 3 different organizations. I think she's one of the best special events, and now she is a dynamo on the board of my last traditional gig with the Alamo Colleges Foundation. So Laura, and I'm keep on saying every year, Laura looks better. I'm saying, Laura, I hope this is not sexist. I'm putting you into my Cougar Club.
Thank you, Jim. I think I'm going to appreciate that. Oh my gosh, I'm so pleased to be here. Hello, John Donahue. It has been a very long time.
Very long time.
I don't really have an organization. I have moved into what I consider my very favorite job of all time. I'm now a philanthropist.
Yeah.
So I get to help all of you people, and it brings more joy than I can ever describe. I'm serving on several different boards, mostly in the higher education and in the child welfare sector. But my joy comes from seeing the change that we can make. Small incremental changes, big giant changes, but I feel like this is what I was meant to do. We are not huge givers, but we're giving as we can. And it is the joy to see a child walk across the stage with a diploma, or a kid get out of the foster care system. So that's what I do. I spent most of my career in higher education fundraising, and I learned a lot. One of my favorite stories is I was directing a capital campaign at Our Lady of the Lake before Jim was there, and the president was a nun, Sister Elizabeth Ann Saltonfuss, one of the greatest teachers I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I sent her out on a call, and she called me from the lobby of this organization, and she said, "I'm not supposed to ask anybody for money." I said, "Sister, they're waiting for you to ask them for money." So not even everybody doesn't have the ability to feel comfortable raising funds. So everything that each of you does really does have a ripple effect. So thank you very much. And thank you for having me, Jim.
Thank you. And let's move. You mentioned sister. Let's keep it in the faith category. I'd like to introduce Reverend Louis Fawcett, who's president of the National Association of Nonprofit Organizations and Executives. And by the way, he's just a regular guy. Besides his penchant for bourbon, he is a fanatical race car driver. You know, he's a cool guy, but he brings education through conferences all across the country. Could you describe your mission, what your greatest joy in philanthropy, and who you'd like to give thanks to?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's good to be with you and everyone to give thanks. So what we do at Nano is bring free market business principles to the nonprofit sector, and we dispel a lot of the myths that have been handed down by the establishment, myths that particularly for small and medium nonprofits do not work, have never worked, and will never work. And so we bring to them real solutions and a way to raise money and manage their organization and run their nonprofit like a business. And we help them understand that it's not different in the nonprofit sector. There's revenue and there's expenses, and the only way that you're going to help more people is by raising more money and then spending more money. So the primary way we help people understand a process for fundraising and running their organization is through 2-day conferences that we host all over the country. And I put the link in the chat. Would be honored to have you all join us for one of these conferences or bring us.
And may I ask, he does this crazy thing. They give free scholarships to just about everybody in the sector.
Yeah, we're happy to scholarship. That's part of our mission. Is if you ask me for a scholarship, happy to share that with you and bring you to any of our 2-day conferences. And we take you through a 13-step model that we've used for 35 years called Major Gifts Ramp Up. And it's essentially a sales funnel where we begin with 2,500 millionaires and community influencers, and we funnel down to the top 100 to fund your first campaign. And then we build portfolios of donors from there. So that's the work I'm involved with daily. My joy is when I see the light bulb come on, and when I see someone who has been particularly beat up by their work in the nonprofit sector, those days when no one calls back, no one returns an email, no one reads what they're sending, and that's just they're bored that aren't paying attention. Much less the rest of the community, and taking someone like that and giving them hope again, giving them strategies, tactics that they can implement on a daily basis. That's my joy, and I'm most thankful for you all who are on the front lines every day, and somehow those of you on this Zoom and your colleagues, we have a way of waking up and seeing the world in a positive way and not being dragged down by everything that we see in
Hey, Lewis,
yeah.
this is a little, I don't know how this is, but I think you've hit the highest mark I know of. What's the highest reading you've read on a speedometer in a car you're driving?
127.
Oh, is that all? I thought it was like 140. Okay. Thank you. Lewis, you and Jimmy and your team provide tremendous capacity building to the sector. Thank you for your leadership. Let's move to Central Texas. Nicole Golden is Executive Director of Texas Gun Sense. Nicole, welcome. Could you explain your mission, your greatest joy of philanthropy, and who you like to give thanks to?
Thank you, and thanks to Rhonda for connecting me with you all. As you said, I run Texas Gun Sense. Our mission is we advocate to prevent gun violence and other gun tragedies in the state of Texas through education, partnerships, and policy change. It's a hard mission. It's really tough. We're very small. We do a lot with a little. And we've done a lot of growth in the time that I've been here. And it's really my greatest passion, and I think a passion for a lot of people. But I think sometimes it can feel a bit hopeless. And so part of our job is simply doing a lot of lifting up hope that there are solutions and a lot of awareness building, which I think we do very well. You're going to have to remind me what the other questions are.
Well, I also want to say personally, thank you for letting the rest of the nation know that not every Texan is packing, okay?
For sure, not everybody is. And even if they are, most people, whether they're gun owners or not, agree with the work that we do. And we find that to be true again and again and again in the conversations that we have.
Let's move to Boca Raton, Florida. And best-selling author Marjorie Hope, who is a visionary in bringing together the world of 1.1 billion people together closer. Could you tell us about the America Connected? What's your greatest joy of philanthropy and who you give thanks to? And about the mega event that you have coming up.
So, thanks, Jim. Marjorie Hope. I live in Palm Beach County in Boca Raton, Florida. And we basically work globally. So where I live isn't even a part of what I do, but the America Connected connects people and nations around the world through connections, events, and programs, trying to work globally so that we learn to be diplomatically together. And I think it's so important right now, and we see everything that's going on that's kind of so crazy, but we don't have, we all get along. People are people. So I am grateful. And I know you guys are going to laugh, but just hear me out on this and you can think about it later. I'm grateful for social media. And I'll tell you why. It's taught us not to rely on mainstream television. Mainstream news is just beholden to advertisers and corporate interests, which is like entertainment TV. Newspapers are old news because it's like from the day before when it was printed. But through social media and through the platforms, they encourage us to not blindly depend on our leaders who throughout history, not just what you may like or not like right now, they've often misled us. So social media has made us more engaged, more informed. It's pushed us to analyze, to research, to read, and most importantly, to think for ourselves, because it isn't always right, but it makes you think and it makes you realize that there's different ways of looking at things in the world. And that's what I'm thankful for, because without that, we will live in a world that really isn't going anywhere. And I think that's so important.
Could you tell
I'm
us
also
about the
thankful
big
for Jim
event that's
Eskin.
coming up? Could you tell us about the big event that's coming up in
We're
your
having a huge
world?
event April 29th in Washington, D.C. It's called Runway of the World. It's not a fashion show, but it's actually a runway of the world with people from all over the world that are going to be there virtually and in person. And it's actually on 450 K Street, which is like right in the middle of DC.
Yeah.
But I'll send more information out as we get
And
closer.
how many online participants do you expect?
Well, we're going to have people from all over the world. We're going to have monitors all over the room. So you'll be able to see like Italy, France, Germany, we are limited to time when I say that, because think about England. They're 6 hours, depending on the time zone, 5.5 to 6 hours ahead of us. But someplace like China is going to be 13 hours ahead of us. So it's a little bit constricted that way, but we'll have people from all over the world joining in, because like I said, no matter where you go in this world, people are people.
Right. No conversation's complete until you call upon an attorney, and we have one of the best that ever lived in Steve Lerman, and also a passionate and visionary nonprofit leader who really has two loves. One is a national organization called Active Minds, and another is a scholarship and mentoring program from his alma mater. Can you take a little, Todd? I guess you have a dual mission. Describe their missions, your greatest joy of philanthropy, and who you want to give thanks to.
Sure. And, thank you for inviting me. And, it's a privilege to be in the presence of all these people who are, involved in these important philanthropies. I'm a mostly retired attorney. I like to say 92%. Who, I turned to philanthropy in the mid 90s and sort of found a second calling that I found, while, I did like practicing law, I found this even more rewarding. I am involved with 6 philanthropies. Now, 4 of them I'm an advisor, and 2 of them I am the chairman of the board. So I'm going to talk about those 2. The other 4, which are also interesting, but not enough time. The first is it's an organization called Active Minds. It's a 22-year-old mental health outreach organization directed to students in college, high school, and middle school. And it is, I can humbly say, probably the most preeminent student-oriented mental health organization in the world. It's a global organization. We're in 5 countries. Like I said, it's 22 years old. And basically what we do is we create clubs, we call them chapters, of students on campuses in high schools and middle schools. We're in 1,000 locations in 5 countries. We have 15,000 student members of our organization in every state in the United States, Canada, Australia, Italy, and Bermuda. So we're all over the place. And what we do is we organize these students. And what we're essentially doing is we're trying to defeat the aloneness that comes with a lot of these mental health issues by providing peer-to-peer interaction between kids. And to Jim's point earlier, one of the principal things we do, you were talking about mental health and the ability to discuss it openly. One of our bylines for Active Minds is we want to change the conversation about mental health around the world so that people can talk about it. We are one of those organizations, which fortunately, and is a testament to the effectiveness of our organization, we are on the Mackenzie Scott radar. And we have received 2 extreme.
By the way, how do you get on her radar? I think
You
everyone would kill for
hope
that.
and you hope and pray, Jim. There's no way to
Okay.
get on her radar.
Yeah.
She has an organization called Bridgespan, which, but we're one of 3 mental health organizations that are on her radar. So it's a fantastic organization, not necessarily because of me. It was founded by a woman who lost her brother to suicide 25 years ago. She was determined to do something about it, and she created this organization at the University of Pennsylvania, which happens to be my alma mater, started a chapter in her dorm room, and the rest is history. So that's that.
Steve, in the interest of time, I know we're going to bring you back to talk about the scholarship program, but we got 9 minutes left, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But that's a promise as an IOU. We're going to do a scholarship discussion.
Okay.
And we might even recruit someone you know from Sharon, Massachusetts. Let us move on to Sister Odilia, who's kind of a neophyte, 34 years as the executive director, director of development, and chief cook and bottle washer at Blessed Sacrament Academy. Sister, could you tell us about your mission, your greatest joy of philanthropy, and who you want to express thanks to?
Our mission is twofold. One of the option for the poor outreach to young people brings in some of the poorest people, children in San Antonio, to give them a good start in their education. The other one is an outreach to high school youth and adults who never finished their high school diplomas and who come to us and say, nobody wants us. They said, you will take us. And this is always the line that brings them to our door. It was not always this way. When we started in 1926, we came to talk to the bishop here. There were some 18 nuns from all over the world that gathered here for however they got here. However, nuns travel all over the place. But anyway, they did. And they they went to the bishop and said, we want some property, and they got some property, and and then they began this regular school. Now, it is not that way anymore. What we do now with those 2 missions that we have came about because the high school we had was no longer viable. And so the thing was, do we sell and go home, or do we develop what we have? And so we decided to stay there and to develop what we have. And that's where I came in. Now, I am now doing more work in philanthropy than anything else. I never intended to do that. I never wanted to do that. I never liked to do that.
Hey, sister, that's what they all say, by the way.
But that, who's all?
All of us professional fundraisers.
Okay, good. Then I'm not alone at all, huh?
Yeah, we pour you the Kool-Aid.
You're in good company.
Thank you. And what I really enjoy is those high school kids, because they come to us and they're supposed to be worthless and no good and awful, and they are not at all. They're just smart kids that have fallen by the wayside. And we have one of them who is going to get his PhD now at UT in Austin, and another one who's becoming a medical doctor because we took them in.
Fantastic.
And we helped them. And there's a lot of other stories like that.
Yeah.
Going to a graduation for our high school is amazing. They get on the stage and they'll hold up their thing and say, you told me I would never amount to anything, and look, here I am. And they're talking to their parents, some of them, because their parents finally resurrected. And then there are others who thank grandma. Grandma gets a lot of thanks at our graduations. And there's a lot of crying there because of what they have come through and from. And they all get up. We don't have a speaker. They all get up and give their testimonial. And so there's a
Sister, thank you for the way you inspire so many people in our community. We're going to try to get a little generational balance. I'd like to call on Carolyn McKeon, who is a master's student in nonprofit management in New York City at Columbia University. you're either foolish or brave, but what got you so passionate about entering the social sector?
Thank you, Jim. Hi, I'm Caroline McKeon, and I started my master's this fall at Columbia University in nonprofit management. I'm not working right now. My job is student, but I began my career in the nonprofit sector 4 years ago, right out of undergrad. I got my very first job at an independent K-12 school in Washington, D.C. Kind of just fell into it, but I loved that job so much. I had the most amazing team and the most amazing experiences working with alumni there. The volunteers and the donor community was just so wonderful. I can't speak highly enough about them. After having that experience and being there for a couple of years, I made the decision to transition into a new role, and I began working at a performing arts institution also in Washington, D.C., called the Kennedy Center. And I was a
I
member
love
of
the Kennedy Center.
yes, I was a member of the planned giving
And I
team.
don't want them to change the name, by the way. I'm sorry.
I
Okay.
hope not. But I joined the planned giving team there in June of 2024. And that is when I really started thinking about my career and where I'm going and what I'm interested in, all of those things. And being on the earlier side of my career, I'm just really trying to get as much knowledge and learn as much as I can, have as many experiences as I can, and connect with as many people. So going the master's route seemed like a great way to make some new connections, which has proven to be true so far. My professors have been really great, and it's a really nice way to have met other industry professionals who are in a similar situation to me, being earlier in their career and just sharing
I'd
about
like to call on Dr. Posner. I would like to get a bottle of bourbon or whatever and get John and Marv and Lewis. One of the subjects that intrigues me is what can you learn in the classroom, but what can you only learn in the field? And this would be about fundraising. Dr. Posner, truly, who's been to 32 countries, has been an innovator in medical simulation. What's your perspective of what you can learn in the classroom and what you only can learn by doing?
That's a fantastic question. And my experience as a physician and going through, medical school, one thinks that you learn how to be a doctor primarily through what you learn in medical school. And there are preclinical and then there are clinical years. What I've learned is you learn on the job. You come out with some basic knowledge. And Carolyn, you know, clearly you're going to have this experience as well, but you're going to come out with some knowledge that you will then execute using that knowledge in the real world. And I think there's nothing better than learning whatever you learn in the real world. Now, I worked in a situation where I was trying to bridge the real world with the academic or educational world. And medical simulation was basically using computers and mannequins and a variety of other technologies, now many more digital technologies, to bridge that gap. So the people who are going into the real world have some experience with taking care of patients in a simulated environment so they can be even more prepared to take care of patients in the real environment. And I think that can be translated to almost any profession or realm or area. And Jimmy and I have spoken about this a lot, is how do you get people to ask people for donations? And there's nothing better than simulating it in a simulated environment to get you more prepared for getting into the real environment. So I don't know whether I've answered your question, Jimmy, but those are the things that I'm thinking about when I look at Carolyn and I look at this incredible group of leaders in nonprofit and philanthropy. I think there's a way to bridge that, but the best way to learn about how to get to be an expert in these fields is by literally doing it. But I think there are some sort of transition points where you can get some experience even before you get out there. I hope I've answered that question, but
yeah, that's perfect. This is maybe a little fortuitous, but as we move through the alphabet, I'm going to ask Barbara Williams, who I call the human spark plug, Could you almost provide a benediction for the blessings of philanthropy?
I have to say, I have been so touched because I've learned so much from all of you. I didn't know about most of your work, the nonprofits I'd heard about, and I am amazed. I'm grateful. I know how hard it is because I was just talking with someone that's the CEO of a nonprofit here, and she said, "Oh, the blessing I get when I have a donation that says to be used where most needed." And I understand for all of you what that means. I know that you love the designated gifts too, but I know that it can be a challenge especially in this climate of getting the donations that you're
And by
wanting.
the way, Barbara, as I Budinsky, but not only has Mackenzie Scott given $26 billion,
Yes,
every cent has been no strings attached.
I know, and that's fabulous. And that's what's needed so desperately. But I can't thank you all enough for what you do. You have blessed me today by just instilling in me the power and the drive to keep going and trying to keep volunteering and trying to keep supporting nonprofits because of the fabulous work that you do. And my motto in life is we were not put on this earth to see through each other, but to see each other through.
Wow.
And that's exactly what
There you
you all
go.
do. And I thank you.
Hey, can I steal that one, Barbara?
Of course.
Hey, listen, I want to thank all of you. I think this has been such a rich, rich discussion. But let me just say, we are a family in philanthropy. It takes everyone. You know, it takes the staff, management, donors, board. And when you put us together, I don't think there's anything wrong with America and the world that we can't solve. And so we're coming to the time of the year that's so precious. So let us wish all of you the very, very, very best for a joyous holiday season. And maybe we'll even let you take a day off, but don't get used to it because we're going to go back to work in 2026 and we're going to work harder to touch, improve, and save more lives, especially helping those who are struggling. We'll be continuing what I call the fundraising, friendship, and fun broadcast in February. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for what you give in the way of gifts of time, talent, and treasure. Yes, right. You help everyone see it through, and you, in your own way, you make the world better. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.